Initiation by Elisabeth Haich. Chapter 2, Lion and Light. In this way, a few winters and a few summers went by. Once I heard that I was 4 years old. Greet was already going to school, and I often listened with the greatest attention to what she read out of her primer. She also had a children's newspaper and read me stories from it too. When she was not at home, I pestered my grandmother, the mother of my father, who some time before had come to live with us, and I kept on teasing her to read something to me. But I was always curious as to what was going to happen next in the story. I never tired of listening to what happened to people. I was full of curiosity about life. It was simply marvelous to think about all the things that could happen. There was just nothing I liked more than fairy tales. My Aunt Addie, the sister of my mother, visited us often and was always willing to fulfill my wish. She had a pretty face, she was loving, and as beautiful as a cat. Her warm brown eyes sparkled joyously, and she possessed a peculiar scent about her, as only people who carry love within their hearts. I enjoyed breathing this wonderful love scent, but encountered it only with a very few people. When Aunt Addie came, we surged towards her joyously, helped her out of her coat, and our first word was always, "Aunt Addie, tell us a story." And she told us the most wonderful stories. Without tiring, she would go on telling one story after another, the most interesting fairy tales I ever heard. When I was sick, Aunt Addie came and told me stories until I forgot all about my illness. We would just not let her stop. Whenever she wanted to, we immediately began to ask her, "Aunt Addie, what happened next? What happened next?" And then I kept on plaguing and pestering her till she resumed her storytelling. When the time came for her to go home to her mother, to my other grandmother, who played the piano so beautifully, I was left alone with Greet and watched how she read in her book of fairy tales. The fairy tales in her children's newspaper and in her picture books were not nearly as nice, of course, as the stories Aunt Addie told us, but they were still fairy tales, and I wanted to know them. I began to spend long periods intently looking at the books from which Greet had learned to read. I looked at the different letters in them, and I wanted to read, but I did not know what they meant. One night, I dreamt the same dream I had had many nights before, so often that by this time the whole family knew about it. I was running with all my might and main. I was running with all my might and main, with a lion chasing me, ready to grab me and eat me up. I was running desperately, grasping for breath, along a path leading to a little house. In the open doorway, there was a woman who did not resemble my mother, but in this dream she was my mother, awaiting me with outstretched arms. I knew that if I reached her, the power of the lion over me would be at an end, and I would be saved. Now he was so close that I could feel his hot breath on my neck. His shaggy mane is almost touching me. Soon he will catch me. I will run with my very last ounce of energy, and then suddenly feel a blow with all the strength that is left in me. I cry out, "Mother!" Then I reach her and I fall exhausted in her arms. I am saved. The lion disappears, and I awaken with terrible palpitations of the heart, shaking with the frightfulness of the dream. Without a moment's hesitation, I jump up, throw a blanket about my shoulders, and run barefoot in my little nightie into my parents' bedroom and crawl into bed beside my mother, under her blankets. Oh, this wonderful, blessed feeling of peace and security that sweeps over me like a welcome wave of warm water. Mother embraces me and asks, "The dream again? The lion again?" "Yes," I answer, and in her blessed presence, My heart stops pounding. In a few minutes, I am sleeping soundly. The next morning, I wake up in my mother's bed. She is gone, but her nightgown is still there beside me. I quickly bury my little nose into it and inhale the precious scent of my mother. Father is lying in his bed nearby, reading the paper. That means it must be Sunday. I figure out silently for myself. Mother comes in and begins to talk to Father. Father lays down his paper, and as luck would have it, right beside me, I pick it up and start to look searchingly at the many mysterious black letters on the white paper. What can they mean? Father, I ask, please tell me what these letters mean. Look, Father answers, that is an L. That is an I. That is a T, and then another T. That is an L. And this last one is an E. And this one here, that, says Father, is an A, and that is a D, and that is a C, and that is an S. And while I look at all these letters, something suddenly seems to open up in front of my eyes, like a parting of a veil. And just as suddenly a flash of light seems to flood my mind. A light. A light. The mysterious letters reveal their meaning, and I find myself reading excitedly and joyously. Father, Father, it says little ads, doesn't it? My mother stands stock still for sheer surprise, and then comes over to me and picks me up in her arms and kisses me with joyous excitement. You can read. Father congratulates me, just as he would a grown-up, somewhat to my embarrassment. Then Greet comes in all happy and excited too, because I can read. Soon everybody in the house knows the news, and Addie, when she comes at midday, gets to hear the news as soon as she opens the door. I can read. The black letters on the white paper are no longer a mystery for me. I can understand them. I can read. And thus began a new epoch in my life. I read everything I could get my hands on. I wanted to learn. I read everything that was readable. Books of fairy tales, children's newspapers, school books, calendars, newspapers lying on my father's desk. Everything, even a magazine that some man had given our maid. In it I read about such things as kissing, love, secret rendezvous, and finally about killing, murder, and corpses. Then, when I asked my mother to explain some of these strange and somewhat frightening words, she snatched the magazine out of my hands, crying, "For heaven's sake, where on earth did you get that?" And then she went into the kitchen and told the maid never, never, never to give me such a magazine again. Why, what a pity. To this very day, I do not know what happened to the beautiful countess who was kidnapped in her bed at night by a man in black who carried her off on his galloping horse. So I had to face one of the sad facts of life. Whenever I was absolutely fascinated by something, my mother did not like it. Little by little, I came to the conclusion that it was better not to discuss the really interesting things with adults, such as such discussions always came out wrong. The only exceptions I found were the men servants in the house. In my very rare moments alone with them, I asked them questions. Somehow I felt they were in my power, and whenever they gave me information, they did not dare to talk to Mother about it afterwards, as they would have been the first to be scolded for it. And that's the end of Chapter 2. Chapter 3 is called My Parents Are Not My Parents. And hope you like that. Like and subscribe, and till soon.